There are moments when the weight of the world no longer sits on your shoulders but presses into your very chest. Breathing becomes an effort. The silence of the room feels loud, and no words feel strong enough to describe the ache inside. In those moments, you don't need solutions. You need understanding. You need presence. You need to hear something that doesn't demand anything from you but allows you to be, even in your most fragile state. To the soul who keeps moving even when your feet are bleeding from the path, this is for you. Perhaps you've grown tired of being told to be strong, tired of hearing the same encouragements that seem to brush past your real wounds, tired of pretending that everything is all right when you lie awake at night with eyes full of pain. This world often forgets that even the strongest hearts have moments of collapse. That strength isn't about always standing tall. Sometimes true strength is found in the quiet moment when you admit, "I'm not okay today." You are not broken for crying. You are not weak for feeling. Your tears are not signs of failure, but rather proof that your soul is still alive and still trying to understand this complex world. When was the last time someone simply sat with you? Not to fix you, not to question you, but to just be with you, in the same air of stillness you've been drowning in. Maybe no one has. Maybe all this time, you've carried your pain like a shadow, following you in every room, behind every smile. And yet you're still here. That means something. Sometimes we forget how sacred it is just to endure, to wake up again, to breathe again, to show up to life even when life feels unwelcoming. These little acts are not little. They are sacred rebellions against despair. You've been doing that day after day and maybe no one noticed. But I see you, even if no one else ever did. This message is not to force you into positivity. It's not a bright-colored bandage for a bleeding soul. Instead, it's a soft whisper in the cold night saying, "It's okay. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to cry." Crying is not the opposite of courage. In fact, some of the bravest souls have cried rivers in silence. They've felt the tremble in their chest, the lump in their throat, and they've let it all fall, not because they gave up, but because they needed to breathe. Sometimes tears are the only thing honest enough to speak for us. Let them. Let yourself be human. Somewhere along the journey, you may have been taught that tears are weakness, that expressing vulnerability is a flaw, that emotions should be controlled, hidden, suppressed. But what if we've misunderstood all along? What if the ones who cry are not those who failed to be strong, but those who are strong enough to still feel in a world that teaches numbness? You are not a failure just because you're struggling. You are not invisible just because you're quiet. And you are not unworthy just because you haven't found your way yet. This world celebrates those who shine in the spotlight but often forgets the ones who fight their battles in the shadows. But not here. Here your quiet battles matter. Here your story doesn't need to be loud to be valid. You don't need to explain your pain to earn compassion. Your existence itself is enough. What you feel right now, however raw and heavy, is valid. Your soul is asking to be held gently. Not judged, not hurried, not fixed. Just held. So allow yourself to rest for a moment, not forever, not in resignation, but in compassion. You've been carrying too much. You've tried too hard to keep it all together. Maybe it's time to put down the weight even for a while. Not because you're weak, but because you're worthy of rest. Even the strongest bridges need maintenance. Even the brightest flames need fuel. You too deserve a moment of stillness. You don't have to justify your exhaustion. You don't have to earn the right to be heard. You don't have to prove your worth through constant resilience. Your value is not based on productivity. Your beauty is not tied to perfection. Your story doesn't need to look like anyone else's. You are not alone. Even in your darkest hours, something sacred still burns within you. Maybe it's small. Maybe it's flickering. But it's still there, the will to try again tomorrow. The whisper that says, "Just one more day." That whisper might be faint, but it's yours. And it's enough. Today you can cry. Today you can feel the weight fully. You are allowed to fall apart. This is not your end. This is part of the journey. The soil must break for the seed to rise. The sky must thunder before the air is cleansed. And your soul, your precious, weary, beautiful soul, is still learning how to bloom. Let the tears fall. Not forever, but for now. Because in the release there is renewal. And in the quiet surrender, there is strength preparing to rise again. When tomorrow comes, you may still feel tired. That's okay. But promise yourself this. Don't quit tomorrow. Cry today if you must. But don't stop walking tomorrow. You are more than your broken moments. You are still becoming. 2. Revealing the meaning behind the pain. Pain often arrives without an invitation. It barges into our lives during the most fragile moments, when we think we have found our balance, when we finally breathe after a storm. It does not knock. It does not ask for permission. It simply appears, and suddenly everything we've built, believed in, and hoped for begins to crumble before our eyes. But within the harsh presence of pain, there is always a hidden question waiting to be answered. Why? This question is one of the most difficult to carry. Not because we lack intelligence or faith, but because the answer is often wrapped in silence. Days, weeks, months, even years can go by without clarity. We endure, wondering if the pain serves any purpose at all. We begin to doubt not only the situation but also ourselves. We wonder if perhaps we are the problem. We ask whether we did something to deserve the silence, the heartbreak, or the weight. And yet, pain is rarely without purpose. It may not teach us what we want to learn, but it always teaches us something essential. Pain often shows us what matters most, and who we are without all the decorations and defenses. Peels us back to the core. In pain, we meet the truest version of ourselves, not the one shaped by achievement or approval, but the one born of perseverance and quiet strength. Consider the most meaningful lessons in your life. Chances are they were not born in comfort. They were not written in joy. They were etched into the soul during nights when sleep would not come, during days when you walked through your responsibilities while feeling numb, during silent moments when you realized no one could carry this for you. That is the sacred weight of pain. It shapes us, not to break us, but to build depth. It strips away the unnecessary, not to leave us empty, but to make space for something more real, more solid. It pushes us to confront ourselves, to face the illusions we've clung to re-examine the stories we've been telling, to ask if the life we're living is truly the life we want. Pain forces movement. It may come disguised as loss, rejection, betrayal, illness, or failure. But beneath the disguise, it is often a divine disruption. It interrupts what no longer serves us. It challenges what has grown stagnant. It awakens us from numbness. And although the process feels cruel, it carries the seeds of transformation, if we allow it to. But here is a truth we often overlook. Pain is not meant to be endured alone. One of its greatest deceptions is to convince us that we are isolated, that no one understands, that we are the only ones carrying this weight. This lie is powerful because it silences us. It keeps us from reaching out, from asking for help, from expressing our grief. We become trapped inside our heads, where the pain multiplies unchecked. Yet the moment we speak it, even to ourselves, we begin to take away its power. Pain loses its grip when we begin to name it. When we admit, I am tired. I feel broken. I don't know how to move forward. These confessions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of truth. And truth is the only ground strong enough to rebuild upon. There is also meaning in the vulnerability pain creates. It softens the heart. It breaks through the walls we've constructed to survive. In our most painful seasons, we often become more compassionate, not only toward others but toward ourselves. We begin to understand the people we once judged. We become more human, more humble. The very thing we thought would destroy us begins to make us more whole. This is not to glorify suffering. It is not to say pain is good or desirable. But when it finds us, and it always does, it is not pointless. If we dare to stay awake through it, if we listen carefully through the noise of our grief, pain may begin to whisper truths we never would have discovered otherwise. There are some people who will never understand what you carry. Not because they are cruel, but because they have not walked through the fire you have. They may dismiss your wounds or offer shallow advice. Do not let that deepen your pain. Instead, let it remind you of the sacredness of your journey. What you are learning now, through every ache and silent night, is shaping a wisdom that cannot be taken from you. You are not just surviving this pain. You are gathering strength. You are learning discernment. You are seeing who truly stands with you and what truly matters. You are being refined. The tears you cry today are not a mark of defeat. They are proof that you are still alive, still open, still feeling. And in a world that numbs so easily, that is something sacred. Let the pain speak, but do not let it define you. Let it teach, but do not let it become your identity. Let it pass through you, but do not let it stay longer than it needs to. And when you rise again, and you will carry a deeper light, one that cannot be dimmed by the shadows of the past. This season is not your end. It is not a punishment. It is not a sign of failure. It is a passage, a deeply painful, profoundly sacred passage, toward the person you are becoming. Hold on, chosen soul. This pain will not last forever. But who you become through it, now that will last for a lifetime. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a lone tree growing on the edge of a cliff. The wind tears at its leaves, the storms batter its bark, and yet it stands. Year after year, it stretches its roots deeper, not into easy soil, but into the very rock that tries to reject it. No applause greets its growth. No one sees how hard it fights each day to remain upright. But there it is, still growing, still standing. This image is not just poetic. It is real. It is symbolic of the invisible strength within many souls who feel broken, overlooked, or forgotten. People who wake up and carry their burdens quietly. People who choose to try again despite the weight they feel pressing against their chest. You are one of them. Sometimes we believe endurance has to look loud, that resilience must roar. But often the greatest strength is silent. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shine. It simply continues. Even if it's crawling. Even if it's bleeding. Even if all it can do is breathe and whisper, "Not today. I won't give up today." Let's explore a visual journey that mirrors your path. A path of quiet strength that, though rarely acknowledged by the world, is deeply sacred. The mountain doesn't rush. Have you ever watched a mountain grow? Of course not. Its rise is not dramatic or swift. But over time, through pressure, fire, wind, and rain, it becomes a symbol of permanence. It doesn't worry about speed. It trusts the process. There are seasons in life where you are the mountain. You are not sprinting ahead. You are not overtaking anything. You are enduring, slowly, unseen. But you are changing. Every tear is like rain on the rock. Every sleepless night is like erosion shaping something deeper in you. Your shape may not be visible to others yet, but your soul is being carved into something strong, majestic, and deeply rooted. To be honest, the world doesn't reward quiet suffering. It praises visible results. It celebrates loud victories. And that is why your journey is often invisible to others. But that doesn't mean it's unworthy. Just because a seed grows underground doesn't mean it's not alive. Just because no one sees your fight doesn't mean it's not holy. The flame that refused to go out. Think of a small candle in the middle of a storm. Logic says it should die. The wind should take it. But sometimes that little flame clings to life. It bends, it flickers, but it stays. Why? Because somewhere deep within, it knows its purpose isn't over yet. You may feel like that flame. Like everything around you is trying to blow you out. But the fact that you're still here, still searching for meaning, still longing for peace, that alone says something powerful about who you are. There is still purpose in you. Even if it doesn't feel like it. Even when the nights feel too long and your heart too tired, even when you whisper into the silence with no answer, you're still here. That is strength. That is beauty. That is enough. The road walked alone. There is a particular pain in walking a road where no one joins you. When you look to your left and right and see no familiar hands. When your victories go unnoticed and your breakdowns are endured in silence. But even this road is part of your shaping. Some souls are carved in solitude, not because they are unloved, but because their path is sacred. You are not less because you feel alone. You are not forgotten because others don't understand you. Sometimes what you carry is so rare, so deep, that only silence can shape it. If others do not walk with you, it's not always because they don't care. Sometimes they simply can't see what you're becoming. And that's okay. Because not every journey needs to be shared to be significant. Some journeys are for you and the one who made you. The strength in tears. Let's return to the image of the tree on the cliff. What keeps it alive? Its roots. Your roots are your tears. Each one waters something deeper. Each one tells your soul, this matters. I still care. I still feel. Tears are not weakness. They are evidence of your depth. People who don't feel don't cry. But those who do cry, they're alive in ways others aren't. When your body is too tired to move, when your heart can't form words, your tears speak for you. And they say this, I'm still here. I still believe it's worth something. I still have hope even if it's hanging by a thread. Your tears are sacred. They cleanse what words can't. They carry pain the world doesn't see. And through them you continue to grow, even when growth feels impossible. Becoming the fire and the water. You are not just one thing. You are fire and water. Strength and softness. Courage and trembling. You are learning to hold your brokenness and your hope in the same hands. Do not measure your worth by your speed. Do not judge your journey by the applause of others. The tree doesn't grow for applause. The mountain doesn't rise for approval. They exist, and in their existence they honor something greater. So do you. In time, your quiet strength will shape things around you. Maybe not loudly. Maybe not in the way the world understands. But in a way that matters. And that is enough. For a quiet mirror, when the soul begins to reflect. There comes a time when silence speaks louder than any voice, when the absence of answers becomes the beginning of clarity. It doesn't come during the noise, but in the quiet hours of the night, after the tears have dried and the body has surrendered to stillness. It is in that moment, the fragile intersection between grief and growth, where reflection begins its quiet work. Reflection is not just about looking back. It's about looking within. The soul, bruised and weary, begins to whisper its own questions. Not to accuse, but to understand. Not to blame, but to uncover what was hidden beneath the surface of survival. And if you've ever sat in that silence, feeling both broken and awake, you know exactly how sacred it can be. You may ask yourself, why do I keep fighting when the pain doesn't stop? Or, what's left of me after all that I've lost? These aren't questions of weakness. They're questions of awakening. They are the soul's way of asking you to pause and finally listen, not to the world, but to the self that has been forgotten in the race to be strong. There is an inner child in each of us, often left behind in the pursuit of being adult enough to handle it all. That child remembers the dreams we abandoned, the joys we ignored, the parts of ourselves we silenced in order to survive. And now, in the midst of exhaustion and pain, that child rises again, not to demand but to remind. You were not created just to endure. You were made to live, to feel, to know yourself deeply and live out your truth. But truth is often born from pain. And sometimes, it takes falling apart to remember who you really are beneath the layers of fear, expectation, and armor. In reflection, we discover that many of our wounds weren't from weakness, but from love. We gave too much. We hoped too fully. We trusted too deeply. And when those gifts weren't returned, the ache felt unbearable. But that pain was also a sign that your heart was still open, your humanity still intact. There's something powerful about realizing that not all strength is loud. Some of the greatest courage is found in the quiet moments when you decide to keep going, even when no one claps for you, even when no one sees you, even when the only voice cheering for you is the quiet whisper of your own soul saying, "Get up, one more time." Look around your life. What did the pain reveal? What did the silence teach? What did your tears water into growth? You may not have all the answers now, but the questions themselves are sacred. They mean you're not numb. They mean you're alive. And being alive, fully, painfully, truthfully, is the beginning of becoming whole again. Take a breath. Not the kind that just keeps your lungs working, but the kind that reaches deep into your chest and reminds you, this is still my life, and I still have the power to shape it. No matter how broken the pieces, no matter how lost the path, there is still a self within you that remembers. That self has not disappeared. It's just been buried under years of noise, pain, and pressure to be okay. But now you know, you don't have to be okay to be real. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy. You just have to be honest enough to sit with your own soul and listen. Reflection is not the end. It's the beginning of returning home to yourself. It is the first step in reclaiming your voice, your worth, your dream. And when you begin to see your story not as a tragedy, but as a seed planted in dark soil, everything changes. Because seeds break before they bloom. And maybe you're not breaking down. Maybe you're breaking open. Stay in this quiet space a little longer. Let it teach you. Let it show you the truths you've been too busy or too afraid to see. And when you rise, and you will, let it be from a place of deeper knowing. Knowing that you are not what happened to you. You are who you choose to become because of it. 5. The shift of thought, from pain to perspective. There comes a moment, often in the aftermath of the most difficult seasons, when the mind begins to shift. Not because the pain has vanished, but because your soul can no longer bear to remain in the same place it once called home. This shift is subtle at first, almost unnoticeable, but it is real, and it is powerful. You start asking different questions. Not, why did this happen to me, but, what can I become because of it? That question alone, spoken from a place of weariness but also hunger for meaning, becomes the catalyst for a new way of thinking. The pain you endured was not meaningless. It may not have been fair, it may not have come with answers, but it shaped you. And now you are faced with a choice, to let it define you or to let it refine you. This shift of thought does not happen overnight. It is not a motivational quote or a feel-good moment. It is a decision made again and again to look at your life not just through the lens of what was lost, but what can be learned. It is the art of transforming suffering into substance. It begins by honoring your story, not glamorizing it, not minimizing it, simply acknowledging that everything you have felt is valid. But now you get to decide what those experiences will mean in the long run. Will they bury you or will they build you? Pain often feels like an enemy, but in the hands of wisdom, it becomes a teacher. It teaches resilience, empathy, perspective. It reveals the limits of our control and the vastness of our potential. It cracks open the illusions we cling to and makes space for what is real. And in the rawness of that reality, clarity emerges. You begin to see that strength was never about how much you could carry. It was always about how much you were willing to release. About learning to let go of things that no longer serve your growth. About choosing peace over perfection. About realizing that surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. The way you think becomes the way you live. If your thoughts remain trapped in the past, your spirit will struggle to move forward. But when you dare to believe that there's purpose in the pain, the past stops becoming a prison and starts becoming a platform. This doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means accepting what is and still choosing to see what could be. It means acknowledging the ache while making room for hope. It's the paradox of healing, that wholeness often begins where the wound was deepest. Sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is change the conversation in your own head. The inner dialogue matters. If your mind keeps repeating, "I am not enough," it becomes a belief. But if you gently, consistently speak truth, "I am healing, I am growing, I am learning," then over time the atmosphere within you shifts. Perspective doesn't deny the pain. It honors it, but it also reframes it. You may not have chosen the suffering, but you can choose what comes next. You can choose to use the storm as soil for something new. You can choose to take the broken pieces and build a bridge toward someone else who's struggling. That is the sacred work of transformation. Some of the most powerful people are not the ones who have avoided hardship, but those who have allowed hardship to shape them into someone more compassionate, more grounded, more alive. They have let their tears become the ink for a story that uplifts others. And now it's your turn. Your mind is a powerful tool. The way you speak to yourself, the way you interpret your journey, it all matters. Begin to see your pain as part of your preparation. Not because you deserved it, but because even brokenness can lead to beauty when held with intention. There is a higher version of you waiting to be revealed. Not someone fake or flawless, but someone authentic, stronger not despite the scars, but because of them. That version of you thinks differently, speaks differently, walks differently, because they've seen darkness and chosen not to live in it. Let that version of you emerge. Slowly, gently, but intentionally. Begin each day with a different question. Not, "How will I survive today?" but, "What truth will I live by today?" That one question changes everything. The mind, once wounded, can become a battlefield. But it can also become a sanctuary. A place where you rewrite your story. Where you stop rehearsing old pain and start imagining new purpose. Where you choose faith over fear. Not because fear disappears, but because faith reminds you who you really are. You are not your lowest moment. You are not your worst mistake. You are not your deepest wound. You are the meaning you choose to make from all of it. And the meaning you make begins with how you think. So take your time. Let the old thoughts fall away like leaves from a weary tree. They served a purpose, but they no longer belong. Make space for something better. For a mindset rooted in truth, not trauma. In growth, not guilt. The shift begins when you decide to take back the pen and write something new. Not perfect, but honest. Not painless, but purposeful. And that shift, though quiet, is where the healing truly begins. 6. A closing that invites and offers hope. There will always be a moment when the night feels longer than it should, when silence becomes deafening, and when even the stars seem to have forgotten to shine. These moments are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to teach you the quiet art of enduring, the sacred skill of pausing without giving up. Every chosen soul walks through a path that others rarely notice. While the world celebrates loud victories, you are living through silent battles that only your soul understands. And it is in these moments, when no one is watching, that the greatest forms of courage are born. Let today be what it needs to be. Let it be messy. Let it be emotional. Let it be filled with questions you don't yet have answers to. But when tomorrow comes, rise again. Not because everything has been fixed. Not because the pain has vanished. But because you know deep within you, your journey is not over yet. The tears you cried today were not signs of failure. They were declarations that your heart still cares, that your soul still feels, that your spirit still hopes. You don't have to be perfect tomorrow. You just have to keep going. You don't need to have all the strength, just enough to take one more step. And you don't need to know how it all ends. You just need to believe that the road ahead still has beauty waiting for you. Somewhere, someday, someone will understand the depth of your silence. Someone will cherish the stories behind your strength. But until then, you are enough. You have always been enough. To every chosen soul reading this, you may have cried today, and that is okay. You may feel weak, and that too is part of being human. But you are not done yet. You are not abandoned. You are not broken beyond repair. You are becoming. Becoming the kind of soul that light cannot ignore. becoming the kind of story that pain cannot silence, becoming the kind of miracle that even time must pause to witness. So breathe, not because life is easy, but because you still have a reason to continue. Tomorrow will meet you not as a stranger, but as a friend who saw your sorrow and decided to walk with you. Don't quit. Don't forget who you are. And above all, don't stop believing that you were chosen for a purpose greater than what your eyes can currently see. Let this be your beginning, not your end. Let tomorrow be your continuation, not your conclusion. Let the world witness how a soul that once cried quietly became the very light that others followed in the dark. You are a chosen soul, and your story is still unfolding.